It's time for the Week 16 player props. Let's talk a little pigskin. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in to another episode for Just a Bet Outside. I am your host, Steven, and it's time to talk those player props and anytime touchdowns. Let's cash some bets this weekend. Quick reminder before we get into it, NFL game bets and trends video is already out, so go check that out. But before getting anything, any graphics you see in this video are from an app called OUTLIER, the best player prop research tool on the market. I am on it every single day. Just ask my wife. Click the link below for a 7-day free trial. But let's get right into it. And we're going to do dad jokes today. So here we go. I'm just going to warn you. I'm going to give you two jokes. They're simple, and they are two of the dumbest jokes you could ever hear. What's green but smells like red paint? Green paint. What's brown and sticky? A stick. Yep. All right. That's what we got. In this video, we are going to talk our best player props for week 16. I'm going to warn you, it's tough out there. The lines are sharp this late in the year, and I do have 4 best bets that I love for player props. Maybe an added one to come, but I got to make sure I take it easy and not force any bets. And then I do still have 3 anytime touchdown bets. So we'll talk those, and then we'll finish it with the recap. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment below to help the algorithm, help this channel continue to grow. I appreciate every single one of you that takes time out of their day to leave a comment. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as we're on our way to 35,000 subscribers. Also, I will be on the Kyle Kerm Show, meant to mention that earlier, at 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Come check it out on his YouTube channel. We're going to break down and give out our best bets leading up until kickoff. So that's what we got. Let's get into it, and that means it's player prop time. All right, this first prop is one of the 1-unit plays we have today. Give me Bucky Irving, the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, over 56.5 rush yards, minus 125 on BetMGM. Now, let's talk about this line real quick. I gave this out early Friday in the Discord. I had a ton of plans, a lot of things going on Friday. But when I gave it out as 56.5, some books are already moving to 59.5. I would play this up to like 63.5 to 65.5. Honestly, I just think this line is too low. I think he gets 70 plus here. Again, that's just my opinion. Now, let's talk about this one. So, and how we're going to do that, we're going to dive into OUTLIER and check out some of the numbers for Mr. Bucky Irving. So, we're going to start out with 2024, as you see right there. He's absolutely crushing. He's over in 4 of his last 5. But really, you're going to hear me say this a lot. He's over in 4 straight. That one game he went under doesn't count. He got hurt versus the Raiders early. It really means nothing in comparing it to what we try to predict in the future. So if we take that game out of it, he's flown over in 4 straight. 73, 88, 152, and 117. This guy is a beast. Now let's scroll down for some more numbers and kind of just look at what's been going on. Let's look at rush attempts first. You can see his role is growing. He now has 12 plus rush attempts in 4 straight. Yes, again, I'm not counting the injury game early in the game. He has 25 and 15 carries in the last 2 healthy games. 40 total carries. That is pretty impressive for a guy with only a line around 60. Now let's look at his average rush yards per attempt as well. He's averaging 5.1 yards per attempt, just crushing it. But no worse lately than a 5.6 yards per attempt average in the last 4 games. Again, not including the injury. He is just a guy who gets big chunk plays. Yes, he's averaged a little over now 16 carries for 107.5 rush yards in the last 4 games. If you take the average, the last 4 healthy games, we only need 57, 60 if you got the line at 59.5. Now let's look at one more thing, longest rush, just to kind of show you how much of a big play this guy is. How about that? Again, you take out the injury, and then 3 straight games, he has a run of 56, 43, and 54 yards. That's right to our line, just in 1 carry. And I expect him to have some big plays here yet again. You could look at his longest rush, too. I don't mind that. Now, if you look at the matchup over there, Dallas 17th in running most yards to running backs. You know what? They're worse than that. In fact, they're giving up the 4th most yards per attempt this season at 4.8 yards per attempt. So they're not a good running defense. You know that. We've all seen that. If we just say he gets 13 carries, which is around his rush attempts line at 5 yards a carry, pretty standard game for him, even in a good matchup, he still flies over this line if you do the math. So it's super conservative, and I just think this number is too low. It should have started in the mid-60s, in my opinion, so I'm not going to overthink this one. Give me Bucky Irving over 56.5 rush yards, possible ladder spot to get to 70, 80, 90. But Bucky Irving is my first best bet. All right, this second one is a kicker prop. Give me Cam Little of the Jags over 1.5 field goals made, minus 125 on BetMGM. is when I gave it out. Half unit play for me here. It's not like my most confident kicker prop ever, but I still really like this. I'm going to play it safe with a half unit, but I think he cashes this one. Let's talk about it. The Jags offense has looked a little bit better lately, and now they get to face the Las Vegas Raiders, who have given up the third most field goals in the NFL. Great matchup. No Max Crosby. Defense is struggling. They've given up 15 field goal attempts in the last 5 games, and in one of those games, they gave up 0 because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just kept scoring touchdowns. Younghoe Koo just kicked 5 last week versus the Raiders. A big reason why there's a lot of field goals is their red zone defense lately has improved. The last 3 games, they're the 4th best red zone defense in the NFL, allowing a touchdown on only 50% of their opponent red zone drives. Jags offense, it's the Mac Jones show now. He started the last 3 games. He had 373 yards versus Houston with 3 field goal attempts, 291 at Tennessee, 1 field goal attempt. And last week, 421 total yards versus the Jets and 4 field goal attempts. So they're moving the ball decently. Brian Thomas is just an absolute stud. He has a good connection with Mac Jones, really helps them move the ball down the field. Now let's talk a little field goal numbers. See what I did there? Okay. 22 for 24 on field goals is little. Longest kick is 59 yards. He's got the leg to do it. They should have very little trouble with this Raiders defense. Okay. Anyways, I'm done. Give me Cam over 1.5 field goals, and that is my second best bet. All right, this next one is my other 1 unit play. Give me James freaking Conner over 107.5 rushing plus receiving yards, minus 115 on BetMGM. Again, this is my 1 unit play. I absolutely love it, and it's crazy to think because this is a very high number. But let's talk the running part of this first. Conner is the absolute workhorse of this team. Both backup running backs are hurt, so I doubt he leaves the field much this game. He has 17, 18, and 16 rush attempts the last 3 weeks. Volume alone should get him close, but now we go to the matchup. Oh, baby, is this a matchup? The Panthers defense, the absolute worst run defense in the entire NFL. The most rush yards allowed to running backs this season. The most yards per attempt in the NFL allowed to running backs or allowed to the opponent, 5 yards per carry. They've given up the most rushing attempts per game because teams know they're going to run the ball a ton. It's not even close. 34.6 per game. Why do they do that? Because they suck on defense. Last 3 running backs versus Carolina. This is crazy. Rico Dowdle, 149 rush yards. Saquon, 124 rush yards. And Bucky Irving, 152 rush yards. The last 3 running backs have gone over this total in rush yards alone. This is an insanely bad run defense. Now let's go to the receiving yards again. This is not the big chunk of it. We just need about 20 yards to break even with the rush yards line. He has 28 plus receiving yards in 4 of the last 5 games. Not just that, he's averaging 38.8 receiving yards per game in the last 5. So, I mean, if he gives us 30 or 40 here, that's like a discount now on the rushing yards prop. The Panthers have been better versus running backs out of the backfield in the passing game. Well, I mean, you couldn't be worse, obviously, than what they are in the running game. But this line is just too low for receiving yards, in my opinion. In Connor's last 2 matchups versus top 10 defenses, when it comes to receiving yards allowed to running backs, he had 130 versus the Jets and 51 versus the Chargers. This guy is capable of having some big games here and consistent volume too. Last 5 games for targets, 5, 5, 4, 4, and 5 targets. He's got 25 of his last 26 targets. That's pretty efficient. So game script, I expect the Cardinals to play from ahead here, or at least be in a close game in general. But either way, I think Conner, as long as he stays healthy, I think you can have an absolutely huge game like we've seen a million running backs have against the Panthers. So I like him to go over this. If you just want to take his rush yards alone, I don't mind that. He might go over this line in just his rush yards alone anyways, like I mentioned. So it's a big number. I think the line should be like 115, 120 easily for this one. So that's what I'm going to take. Give me Jim Conner over 107.5 rush plus receiving yards as my third best bet. All right, this fourth one is an under. Give me Terry McLaurin under 62.5 receiving yards at minus 110 on Bet365. This is a half unit play for me. Now, I'll explain why. It was a full unit when the line was about 69.5, 70. It just dropped so dramatically. I'm just going to change it down to a half unit. If you want to go full unit, you can. I still think he stays under this, but he's had a great season with Jaden Daniels, but this matchup is tough. Let's talk his numbers now. He's only under this line in 3 of the last 10 games. If you are a hit rate guy, you are not going to like this. He's only under in 1 of the last 5 games. He's been crushing it. But the last 2 games, 73 yards in both of those games. So obviously he's still playing well, but he's averaging 6.4 targets per game. So he's not a guy getting peppered with 10, 11, 12 targets that you got to worry about or anything like that. That's the last 5 games, by the way. Not crazy volume. He can make some big plays, but it's about the matchup here. He has the toughest matchup in the entire NFL. The Eagles are allowing 173 pass yards per game, number 1 in the NFL. They may have the best secondary in the NFL as well. Cooper DeJean and this young secondary has just been playing lights out. They should absolutely lock him down. And in fact, McLaurin just played Philadelphia. And how about this line? He had one catch on 2 targets for 10 yards. He got absolutely taken out of the game. And then an insight that I got from Outlier, McLaurin has not gone over this line in 8 of the last 10 games when facing top 10 defenses. In fact, averaging only 43.9 yards per game. Eagles are as tough as it gets. They're the #1 team in limiting yards to the wide receiver position. As long as we don't just have some broken play where they allow just one huge play or anything like that, which they haven't been doing lately. Also, this D line should be able to get some pressure on Jaden Daniels, flush him out of the pocket, and run a little bit more. But either way, I love this with how the Eagles are playing. So I'm going to go half unit. Give me McLaurin under 62.5 receiving yards as my fourth and final best bet on the video. Again, I'm going 4 here. It was a busy day just trying to get you the best lines that I have. And these lines are pretty sharp right now. So I may have an added play. It'll be in the pinned comments on X and on Discord. But we're not done yet. Let's talk the anytime touchdowns. All right, here we go. We went 2-1 last week, hit a nice juicy winner. I got one decent juice, one not great juice, and one that's the biggest long shot we've had of the season. So here we go. The first one, decent juice. Anthony Richardson, anytime touchdown, plus 140 on DK. He has scored a touchdown now in 3 of the last 4 games, 7+ carries in 4 straight. He has more carries inside the 5-yard line the last 4 games than Jonathan Taylor. That's right. He has 46+ rush yards in 3 straight games. He is using his legs a lot more. Colts coach and Anthony Richardson, they came out and said, you know what, we got to use his weapon, not be afraid of him getting hurt and all that kind of stuff. And it's led to a lot of rushing from him since he became the starter again. His rush attempts line is set at 8.5 for a reason. They like to use his legs down by the goal line. He's facing the Titans, give up the 5th most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks. I think the Colts put up some points here at home against the Titans defense, so I like Anthony Richardson to get a touchdown again. Second one, Jalen Hurts, another quarterback. Jalen Hurts touchdown, minus 120 on DK. Yes, this is the safest play. There's no juice. We're eating a little bit of it. But guys, this shouldn't even be playable. He now has scored 1+ touchdown in 8 of his last 9 games. He has 2+ touchdowns in 3 of those games. I don't understand why DK is dropping a minus 120 line. In other books, you saw minus 140. He has a ridiculous 9 red zone rush attempts last game alone. 9 red zone rush attempts. He has a higher red zone rush share percentage than Saquon Barkley, 43.8% to 41.1%. Hurts is the absolute main man by the goal line. Commanders are vulnerable on the ground like we've talked about before. I think Hurts can get another touchdown here in this surprisingly playable line from DK. The third one, the biggest long shot. That's right, bigger than air fryer last week. How about Chig Okonkwo? Anytime touchdown at plus 500 on FanDuel. I'm going to say this, it's only 350 on DK because they're a little smarter, I think. That's a better line. 500 is insane. We have to take a chance. Again, this is worth a sprinkle here. So we hit last week plus 330 with another tight end and air fryer of the Steelers. Now it's time to get chiggy with it. Here we go. Let's talk Okonkwo. He has had a good connection with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He has played 5 games with him. He has 3 games of 38+ receiving yards. Has 59 receiving yards on 10 targets last week. Not just that, if you take away the penalties, he had actually 13 targets. It's just crazy how big his volume was. For a guy with plus 500 odds, it's crazy. But he's averaging 5.2 targets per game in the games that Mason Rudolph has been the quarterback. He has not had a red zone target in 6 weeks. I get it. It sounds crazy. But again, you're getting plus 500 for a reason here too. 3 of his 4 red zone targets this season were from Mason Rudolph. This offense has been horrible for most of the season. That's the problem. They don't score a ton of touchdowns. But maybe Rudolph can kind of give them a little bit of a jump start here with their offense, especially against a struggling Colts secondary as well. And it's Christmas. Rudolph just has to play well. Colts defense has allowed the 2nd most touchdowns to tight ends this season. Another great matchup. They're also ranked 25th overall versus tight ends in yards allowed. Have 5-1 odds. It's worth a sprinkle. Again, all these bets are going to be a quarter unit each for me. If you tail this, do not put it in a parlay. Just please don't. This is just huge on its own. So those are my 3 anytime touchdowns, my 4 best player props. And now let's check out the recap. All right, there it is. Bucky Irving over 56.5 rush yards. Again, if this line has moved since I gave it out Friday morning, I don't mind up to like 63.5 on this one. He should have a big game. Minus 125 for a unit. Cam Little of the Jacksonville Jaguars over 1.5 field goals made. Minus 125 for a half unit. And then James Conner over 107.5 rush plus receiving yards, minus 115 for 1 unit. And then scary Terry McLaurin under 62.5 receiving yards, minus 110 for a half unit. Anytime touchdowns, a quarter unit each, not a parlay. Anthony Richardson, anytime touchdown, plus 140 on DK. Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown, minus 120 on DK. And Chig Okonkwo, anytime TD at plus 500 on FanDuel. Again, I may have an added player prop. It'll be in the pinned comment below on X and on Discord. And by the way, Discord is completely free. So thank you guys for watching. As always, I appreciate the support every single week for this NFL season. You guys are absolutely incredible, really helping this channel grow. If you haven't already, hit that like button. And also go check out the NFL Best Game Bets video as well. But hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy some football, and we'll talk to you soon.